Hello, friend, and welcome to today's podcast. I am thrilled that today you'll get to hear a conversation that I had with Alicia Harper. Alicia has a long career in human resources, and she has been one of my trusted friends and advisors in HR and all other areas of life for over 20 years. Alicia graduated from the University of South Carolina with a Bachelor of Science in Business Administration. Go Gamecocks. She then started her career in human resources and never left. She currently works for eSources as a human resources consultant to small and medium-sized businesses. She offers guidance and support on employee benefits, payroll, employee relations, and organizational development to eSources clients. She has the designation of Senior Professional in Human Resources and is a member of the National Society for Human Resource Management. Alicia is also a wife and mother of two adorable and busy boys. And she enjoys reading. She's an amazing cook. She's an exceptional HR leader and one of my very dear friends. And in this podcast, we get into the life of a working parent. So from both an HR perspective and a parent perspective, we share the challenges, strategies to survive, and I'll even say thrive. So thanks for joining and enjoy.
Now available. You deserve to love your job. How to find your purpose and enjoy your life. You may not have learned this growing up, but you deserve to love your job. You will spend more time at work than in any other activity in your life, and you deserve to love it. Research tells us that people who love their work are twice as likely to enjoy their life. This book will help you create a blueprint to help you fulfill your purpose, love your job, and live the life you were designed to live. Now available at Amazon.
All right, so thank you all, everyone, today for joining. And Alicia, thank you for joining in podcast world. I'm so glad you're here. I was thinking about this morning. I'm excited about this conversation for a couple reasons. One is because we talk about this all the time anyway. So this is just a continuation of a conversation we already have. And two, because it's a topic I know is important to both of us, both for our own families and children, the young people in our lives that we interact with, and even for the people we support from an HR and coaching perspective. Working and parenting are just critical topics right now for all of us. So I'm glad we get to have this conversation, and I'm glad you're willing to jump in on the brainstorm with ideas and just things you've seen in your own work career and your own family life. So thank you for joining.
You're welcome. I'm super excited.
Yeah. So I thought we'd start by, just to give people context, maybe tell everyone a little bit about your family, and then I'll do the same thing, and then we can kind of jump into some of the questions.
Sure. So I'm married almost 18 years. I have two boys, a rising fifth grader who is 10 and a rising ninth grader who is 14. I can't believe I'm going to have a high schooler and a driver soon.
Yes.
And somebody who's thinking about college and their future career. So that is it's a big part of what's going on in my life. I do have three nephews, one out of the workforce, one in college, and one just graduating high school, and a goddaughter that I try to mentor every now and again,
Yeah.
who's also in high school. So a lot of, I would say, tween and above children in my life right now. So, and it's very, very busy and trying to balance work and school and activities and just growing them into decent human beings. It's a lot.
Yeah, it is a lot. Yes. And that's my focus too. And I know you know this, but I'll share it with everyone else. So I'm married as well. We've been married for 24 years. I can't believe it. 25 next year. We've committed to doing something. I was like, we don't always celebrate anniversary big, but I'm like 25, we're doing something. But I have one daughter starting her second year in college this year in the fall. I was a foster parent for a few months, and then provided respite care for her and the family a little bit after that. So that was a really amazing and learning experience. Also have a godson and a goddaughter. His sister, I consider my goddaughter. She's not officially, but I consider them both my godchildren. And I have three sisters. My husband has three siblings, uncles and aunts who are like siblings as well. So all of their, all my nieces and nephews, and now I even have some great nieces and nephews.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I know. It's awesome. So, and it's fun in those roles too, because you get to kind of support them as parents. And also, like you're saying, like occasionally provide some encouragement or support or, show up for a celebration or guidance. It's kind of like the fun parts of parenting.
Yeah.
These godchildren, nieces and nephews, without bearing the full brunt of it. So I love those experiences too. So we'll be speaking from all that.
We don't have very many girls in my family. So my younger brother is getting married and bringing in, I guess, a stepdaughter. So I'm super excited to have a niece. I don't have one. So
that is exciting
to try that, to work with her as well.
Yeah, you're surrounded by boys. You're right. And we have a ton of girls, probably have more girl experience than boys. So yeah, okay, so we're pretty balanced in that. Okay, so I thought before we jump into the questions, I was reading one study and I thought this was an interesting stat. So this is from the Ohio State University. And it said the research came out in 2022, but the research was actually done in 2021. But they said that 66% of working parents meet the criteria for parental burnout. And parental burnout is basically just being exhausted, exhausted physically, mentally, emotionally, by just the pressures of caring for your children and feeling like, you just don't have anything left to give. Like you've reached the end of your rope, essentially. And that breaks my heart for so many parents, because I think we've all been there at some point. But to think that in their study, 66%, which is like most of us essentially, are in some kind of a burnout. It breaks my heart for parents, somewhat for children too, because they're living in that situation. But I always feel like young children, especially, sometimes even older, are really unaware of what most of us go through as parents. Like occasionally they're like, was something wrong with you? But in general, I think your experience as a parent, they're so focused on themselves, but so 66% dealing with burnout. And when they kind of divided it by moms and dads, it said that 68% of moms and 42% of dads are reporting burnout. And I think that's common with what experience would say too, which is, and research says this even from before the pandemic, that being a working parent is difficult. Yes. And being a working mother is even more difficult for lots of different reasons. But, being a working parent is challenging for everyone. And being a working mother is even more challenging for most people. So I thought that just kind of undergird for me how challenging this is for all of us right now, in general, and especially during this pandemic.
66%, that's huge.
Yeah, that is. That's most people are dealing with some level of burnout as a parent. So that's why I'm excited we're having this conversation. So and you've been in human resources for, really a whole career. Yeah. That's actually how we met, for those who don't know. So we met before either of us were parents working in human resources. So just whether it's throughout the pandemic or in general, like what have you seen as some of the biggest challenges of being a working parent, from your role as HR?
Well, definitely through the pandemic, it was really challenging when everything shut down. I mean, everyone had to work from home. Everyone had to become teachers. All the businesses we were working with with my clients were all just in scramble mode, trying to figure out what do we do with our employees, who most of them have children or have families. So I think the biggest thing in the last 2 years has just really been the scheduling and trying to figure out who is doing what and how do we keep our employees here? How do we keep them motivated? And then when the employees are home, how are they handling their life and their children? For me personally, having my kids come home for months at a time for school was really challenging. But I was lucky enough, I had a job where I could work from home. And my husband had a job where he was really flexible as well. So as far as the biggest challenges, really think it's being flexible and getting and working a job that works with your family. And your lifestyle. And I've been lucky enough, I've found a job where I can work part-time in the office and at home and able to go get my kids every day. But that's been a trade-off as well, working that kind of job. So HR wise, the biggest challenge last few years has really been the pandemic.
Yeah.
It was difficult for everybody.
Yeah. And I think your word about the scramble, like that feels like what the last couple of years were like, no, we've never done it before. Yes, you have to do it all. So what kind of mode are you in to try to figure it out? And a lot of things unpredictable. Like I feel like that in general in life, these last few years, just things that I used to be able to go to the grocery store and always find my bread. Like from that being like, where is it now? That from that kind of thing to your childcare. Like they said, that was one of the biggest challenges was just like some people couldn't find childcare if they needed to work outside the home, teachers who were at one point going back to schools, but the kids were virtual and, just finding childcare to take care of your children while you're trying to figure out the work situation was definitely one of the biggest challenges. So I think the last couple of years have felt like a scramble, honestly, like we're just very shifting, like not stable.
Nothing's the same. I've read somewhere that like 70% of parents had children at home for over 3 months. And
yeah.
And that was school-age children. And then I've read somewhere that like 80% of parents said their children from like 0 to 4 years old didn't even go to daycare. So how do you scramble and, work that out? And from business-wise, from clients, we work a lot with small, medium-sized businesses, and we worked a lot with medical practices. And so some of them shut their whole practice down. Like we have a couple of dentists, and they had to shut everything down. So everyone was home. Nobody was making any money. Everyone got furloughed. And then all of a sudden, when they had to bring them back, nobody had childcare.
Yeah.
Think about your dentist office, it's mostly women, and nobody had childcare. So it was a huge shifting. I can't even explain how difficult it was at that time for being in HR, because everyone was calling us about how do we handle laying off our employees? How do we handle paying people with COVID? How do we handle childcare? And all the same things were going on in my own personal life.
Yeah.
How do I handle? Yeah. So it was.
That's a good point, because you're managing from the work standpoint, whether it's HR, supply chain, IT. I feel like everyone, no matter where you were working, COVID threw it into like, you're going to have to do it differently. So you're managing it for work, and then you're also kind of managing those same experiences in your own life as well.
Yeah. So you saw both sides. I think what was helpful, because I could see both sides of it. And I do feel like the workplace has changed significantly. A lot of my clients who are not service oriented, who do not have to be in the office, they have all these flexible hybrid work environments now that I don't see changing anytime soon.
Yeah. That's been one of the benefits. I think it's kind of made you rethink work and how work is happening. And so hopefully some of that might last, some of that might last beyond the pandemic. So I was reading something, and it said that, the share of mothers who said working full-time would be best for them dropped from 51% pre-pandemic to about 44% during pandemic, because of the challenges of trying to balance both, like you're saying. And I've noticed this so, you've turned me on to TikTok. And so I've become addicted the last few weeks. I had time off, and I've become addicted to it. And I've noticed on TikTok, and there's a stat that kind of goes with this as well, but there's this general sentiment around work, just like I don't necessarily want to be there. And I've seen a lot of posts from young women saying, thanks so much for liberating us. Now I feel like I have to, be like all in at work and all in at home. And it's just too much. Like this idea of the liberation doesn't feel very liberating to them. And they're like, I wish I could just go back to being a stay-at-home mom. And I get that. I mean, I did that for a while, so I understand that. And one of the stats said that in the last quarter of 2021, 6% fewer jobs were held by parents of children ages 5 to 12. So meaning by the last quarter of last year, 6% of people who had children in that, intense parenting age, 5 to 12, just like dropped out and said, I'm not doing it anymore, essentially.
They probably dropped out for COVID and then never went back.
Right. Dropped out for COVID, never went back. And there's also an increase in people saying they want to work part-time, which I thought was interesting, given you've had that experience. So I'm curious, like, what has been like the idea of working part-time, as a working parent? Like, what's been good about that for you? Or what do you think has been most challenging about that for you? As some people consider that more often now.
Yeah. So I worked full-time until I had kids. And then I took a 3-year maternity leave with my first one. And then came back for a year or two, and then had my second child, and was just really enjoying working a little bit. Like I wanted the adult interaction and the pat on the back a little bit and helping people. But I also felt like it was important for me to be home. And I was lucky enough with my husband's job, we were financially stable enough for me to only work part-time. And I worked with my boss. I was really honest with him about what I wanted to do. I mean, at one point I was coming in Tuesday and Thursdays, 9 to 12, and he still let me do it. Like,
ask for what you want. There's a lesson.
Like whatever you want, just come in and do it. And then slowly, as my children got older and started full-time school, I was able to work more and more hours, to where I am now, where I come in the morning and I leave every day around 2:30, and I pick them up from school and do activities and stuff. so that's been positive. I mean, I could not have asked for a better, for me in my situation, flexible part-time job for me to do what I want. I think the downside, and this is completely was my choice, is that I have not grown my career as much as I could have if I stayed in full-time. Yeah. So, I'm staying in my same job. I've been here over 20 years now doing, I've obviously grown in my position. I have a lot more responsibility and have a lot more under my belt, but I haven't really grown my leadership, I guess, abilities with this position. And that was a choice I made with my husband to, just to stay the status quo because it's been working for us.
Yeah.
I think that was big. So I look back on my career, I was like, oh, I could have done so much more. I could be running my own business or, chief human resources officer somewhere. But I couldn't have done all the things that I was able to do at home. So it was a definite trade-off.
Yeah. And I mean, first of all, I love that you asked for what you wanted. The idea that, right now what's working for me is about 6 hours a week. And he was like, okay, I'll take that. I mean, that says a lot about who you are as a person, one, that he valued you and was willing to do that. And it also says a lot about your courage and willingness to ask for what you want. Because I feel like a lot of times we feel, sometimes, of course, financially, you're forced into, you have to do, full-time or other things. But a lot of times we have more options than we explore. Because more people, the research says more people are considering part-time, more parents are considering part-time because they feel like it might help them better balance. And as long as you're making the decision with everything in mind about what's important to you, I love that, because that, it's kind of like a whole life perspective than just focused on work or just focused on family. It's like, what's going to make my whole life work? So I love that first of all, I love that you asked for that and that he said yes.
And he said yes.
And that you were able to kind of change it as your needs changed, as your family grew, or, just as things change for you, were able to switch that up. That's really.
I've talked to other part-time moms, so, and they feel like, and I feel like this sometimes, I do it all. Like I'm working, but then my husband sees me coming home and the kids. And so then I'm, I still have to do the cooking, the cleaning, the picking up, the driving around, the Ubering to every sport event. And so, yeah, and I know that's every mom. So it's not just part-time moms, but I do feel like I don't get a break.
Yeah. No, you know what? The research says that too, actually. It says, I was reading something, and it said that when you work part-time, that your partner or spouse or whoever thinks, oh, well, you're working part-time. So, so even though, because when you think about it, you're getting off at 2:30. That's basically a couple hours every day. It's not like real part, it's not like that 9 to 12 or that you work, working, but it's just, in their mind. I think, my husband does that just because I work from home a lot. He's like, oh, you're home. So you can do that, or you can do. So that's a reality. And also just for moms in general, to your point, one thing that said that 3/4 of moms in opposite sex relationships, so 74% said that they did more to manage their children's schedules and activities than their spouse or partner. And only 3% said their spouse or partner took on more. So basically moms are saying, yeah, I'm doing more. Like part-time, full-time, whatever. Generally moms feel like they're doing more. So that is, but I get what you're saying. If you're working part-time or even at home, like,
because I still get the, oh, hey, well, when you get off, can you go, my mom's birthday's tomorrow. Can you go get her a gift? I'm like, I have to go to a carpool, and then we have basketball and drums and guitar. And I'll be home around 6. So yeah, I'll try to get her a birthday present.
Right. I'll be home around 6, but I think you will too. So why don't you make that stop on your way to the house? Yeah. Oh, I get that.
It was important to me as a woman. I wanted to stay in the workforce. I have gone to school. My parents helped me pay for college. I felt like it was an important piece of who I am. And I wanted my boys to see me working. I didn't want them just to know me as the chef and the Uber driver and, the laundry guru. I wanted them really to see a woman in the workforce and contributing to the family and contributing to herself and growing. And I don't know if they see that yet, because they leave to go to school and I go to work and then I pick them up. So they don't see me at work.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, I know you work, Mom, but
yeah,
you come pick me up at noon and take me. I'm like, no, I can't do it. So, but I think it was important for them to see that too, and to see a work ethic for both my husband and I to work and have the children see that.
Yeah. I agree with you. I think that's one of the benefits of being a working parent, is that, your children see you in a different light, and they do get to see the work ethic and how you work, and how you give to your workplace. And I think that's all great lessons for them. What are other benefits you think to being a working parent? Are there any other benefits you think are like that are good?
Well, for me personally, it helps me learn organization skills.
Mm-hmm.
I really have to be organized. My calendar on my phone. I mean, you and I talk about meal planning all the time, but
Oh
I
God.
write out every meal I'm going to make for the week and I go shopping on Sunday because I don't like to go to the grocery store every day.
Yeah.
And just really being on it, and then teaching my children to be responsible. They're home by themselves now this summer, so I leave them a schedule of things they have to do or when they have to be ready for people to pick them up. So I think really just organizational skills have, that to me has been a benefit.
Yeah, I could see that. Yes. And we're going to talk about your meal planning because Alicia's amazing at meal planning. I'm always like, send me a recipe, 5 ingredients or less.
Got it. I made one last night.
I'm always like, I only need your 5 ingredient or less recipes because after that, I'm pretty much out. But yeah, I think I love that they see you in a different light. The other one I was thinking about is I feel like, like I heard this in a class I was in, that people that are really close to you, like your children or your spouse or partner, whoever, can be good transformation partners, meaning they see things in you that you don't see in yourself. I feel like I'm probably a better even employee because of Lauren, because, my daughter's really honest, which I love, but your children will kind of point out to you things that are strengths of yours or things that you could do better, even in their way. So if we're open to it, I feel like I learn a lot from parenting her just to make me a better person and also just a better employee, better to those I serve. And I feel like it's made me more empathetic to people that are parents too, like in the workplace. I remember one of the people one of my managers he was a working dad and his wife had a full-time job too. And I always felt like people who had my situation just understood it better and gave me more empathy, for, hey, I can't come in or have to do this or that. It just gives you a deeper level of empathy, I think, for people who are trying to do both. And he was always so awesome. Like if I'd had to stay home because she was sick or like, he just was like, take care of whatever you have to take care of. And I always appreciated that. So I think this experience for me also helped me be more empathetic to other people who are trying to do both, which is
it's funny you say that, because before we had kids, my husband, he would have employees under him with like, oh my gosh, she is always taking time off because her kid is sick or this or that. And then once we had children, he was like, holy moly, like no wonder. Yeah. And so he is, as a man and a boss of a lot of women who have children, so much more flexible with timing and coming in and out and school closings and whatever is going on. It has really changed him and helped him become more empathetic. So I like that change.
Yeah. I think it definitely changes your perspective, like most, significant life experiences does, but that one does for sure. Yeah. So like, I guess so you said a couple, but anything else for you that's been like personally challenging as a working parent? Like what's been most, like when you think about yourself, anything that's been most personally challenging for you?
Really personally, I think trying to decide what to do with my career, like stay kind of where I am or move. I mean, I've looked at other positions in different places and talked with my husband a lot and my friends. And I was like, this just really, really works for me. And so I stayed here and it's been wonderful. I don't have any regrets about it, but I think that's been the most challenging. It's just trying to decide, like as a working mom, what works best. And it's not just for me, it's what works best for the whole entire family and also my employer. I don't want to go anywhere where I can't give 100% or I don't want to give 100%.
Yeah.
So to me, that has been the most challenging, just trying to really map my career as I've gone through it.
Yeah.
I don't know what's been most challenging for you, because you
when you
had
said
some
that,
big time careers and took a lot of your time and now you work from home.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing were choices too, honestly. Like I remember thinking, okay, so when I had Lauren, I stayed home for a year and, toward the end of that year or so, I remember feeling guilty. I was like she could be with other kids. Like you're just like, you have a whole degree, it's like you could be like contributing to the family or putting resources away for her. So I'm staying at home as a stay-at-home mom, feeling guilty toward the end of that time. And then I went to work, and as a working mom, I'm like, you're not spending enough time with her. Like, it's kind of like, so if you allow it, you can carry around this kind of mom guilt in every situation that you're in. So I think that was one of my biggest challenges too, which was like making the choices I thought were best for me and our family. And then, being really excited about those and enjoying those and not allowing myself to feel guilty about whatever. Because when you choose one thing, you're not going to be doing something else. And it's easy to be really excited, to always think about what's the one thing I'm not doing. It's like, God, we can really put too much burden on ourselves around our choices. So I like your idea around, I think that was the biggest challenge for me, is like making the choice and then like just being happy with the choice that I've made and enjoying what I have instead of always thinking about what I'm not doing or what I don't have.
And mom guilt is so real. I mean, we feel guilty about everything. You're right. Guilty if we work too much, too little, if we don't play with them enough, if we don't interact with our children, if we're not a good wife, child, parent, everything. It's a tough. Even I have friends who have stayed home as soon as they've had children and been stay-at-home moms their whole lives, and they have mom guilt. And then I have full-time working moms who are 100% into their job and they have mom guilt. It's really hard. But what's worked for me is to have mom friends. Like, I don't know what I would have done without you and some of my other girlfriends, where I can call and talk about all these things. And just having your knowledge and your experience, and just has really helped me get through all kinds of situations in my life and career.
Yeah, that's one of mine too. Like a strategy that works is definitely friends. Like our conversations, and Alicia and I've done so many things. Like we read Tiger Mom. We'll like text each other around, oh my gosh, let me tell you what happened. Like just having someone else who's in a similar situation, dealing with work, dealing with children, dealing with partners or spouses, and trying to make it all work and enjoy the life you have. Like I agree, like having other mom friends is required. And I think it would be really hard to do it without it. And I know some people who I feel like maybe haven't made that connection, because sometimes it's hard to be vulnerable, maybe like, in some relationships you can get into a weird dynamic where everyone's like being perfect or something and only sharing the good stuff about their children. Like, oh my God, my child won the whatever award, which is good. We're happy for you. Like, I mean, I'm happy for you, but I need to have friends who are willing to talk to me about both sides of things, like the really good things, but the challenging things as well. So I think being vulnerable and having other friends that are parents as well is, I don't know. I don't think I could do it without it. Not successfully.
No, I don't either. I really need someone I could be sarcastic with and be like, let me tell you what he did today. And just laugh, just so, you feel better about it, but also just get advice. What do you do? How do you handle it? And then I feel more normal. Like when I see someone else's child having a meltdown on the lacrosse field, I'm like, oh, okay. My child's normal. Like, we all have meltdowns and have bad days, and I can, or people complaining about how hot it is or whatever. I'm like, okay, good. I'm right here. I'm doing well. We're doing okay.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's been like huge for me, friends. So I totally agree with that. I know you're a huge reader. Another strategy that I thought that has worked for me is books. Like, I love that Tiger Mom book. It's not like I am a Tiger Mom, but at least encouraged me to be like to toe the line a little harder. Do you know what I mean? So I know you're an avid reader, but I feel like I've learned a lot through books, because parenting's not something you learn formally very often. But books, I had to read a book, even going through the training for foster care, which was actually super helpful, not just for foster care, but just as parenting. I remember having to read a book on positive discipline, which talked about natural consequences. So I just feel like reading has also helped me kind of balance and get new ideas for parenting too. I don't know. I know you're an avid reader. Do you read? And I know we read Tiger Mom. I don't know. Do you read other books on parenting, et cetera?
I have. I mean, really starting from when they were infants, I was reading healthy sleep habits and making healthy baby food. And I mean, those gave me such aha moments, like reading about when to put your infant down to bed. Like blew my mind. I was like, oh my gosh, I can put him down in bed at 6 o'clock at night? No way. And it just really blew my mind. So I've always tried to read books like that. And then, Tiger Mom and Anxiety for Children and How to Raise Teenagers, Boy Mom books. There's a lot of tips and tricks that have come out of that. And now that they're getting older, I'm trying to read more books about how to communicate with your teenager. I know you and I have talked about more asking questions instead of telling them what to do. And so that has been really helpful to me. But reading for me, I mean, I read a lot of fiction. It just takes my mind off of things. It helps me go to sleep. It helps me just forget things about the day and just puts me in a different place. So my family makes fun of me by how much I read.
Yeah, because how many books are you reading? I remember us talking about this before, and I was always like, wow, like that's like I read, but you really, really read. We read that other book, that Brene Brown book together.
We did.
But what like how many books are you reading a year? Like, would you say, or how often are you reading?
I probably read, I don't know, 3 books a month. Yeah, I read every day. I mean, and I'm, my family makes fun of me, but I'm like, it's free. I get everything from the library on my Kindle. I can read anywhere. And it just really helps take my mind off of things. So for me, it's relaxing. It's really relaxing. So yeah, I read a significant amount. I'm in a book club with a bunch of moms who are not my best friends. So it's nice to meet new people and to get out and hear different ideas and talk about family things and work things. So that's helped me, make some new friends as well.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that's reality. I think that's helped me a lot from parenting too, which is the reading and just this idea that you're not taught it. We're not taught how to be good working parents. It's something we're all figuring out as we go. So if you can get tips from other people, whether it's, I love your book club, that's amazing. Reading, like I watch YouTube videos from pastors I really like. I feel like I have so many mentors that don't know they're my mentors because I've never met them. but I watch all their stuff, or I listen to all their podcasts or read their YouTube things because it's just helpful. And so I feel like that's one thing we have now that maybe our parents didn't have, which is this access to information. You can go and learn lots of strategies about lots of different things now, which really, our parents and parents didn't have that as it wasn't as easy to access.
No, you're right, because it was just your friends and family at that point.
Yes.
And if you wanted to do something different or had a different type of child, you were kind of left, blown in the wind. But now you can find information on everything. And I've used the internet, I've used teachers, I've used books to help me with whatever my children or myself were going through at the time.
Yeah, me too. And that's been super, super helpful. I still do, actually. That's been super helpful because now I'm in a, with a college student. That's a different type of parenting. I guess it's still parenting, but it feels like I'm gonna call it consulting, but it's a different type for sure. So
and I think your book would be great for college students to get them thinking about what they want to be doing with their lives.
Yeah, it's so funny. Lauren said to me the other day, we were talking about I think she'd be okay if we sharing this. We were just talking about, what she wants to do career-wise. And we were on text and she was like, why didn't you make me read your book? I just have to make you read my book. I was like, okay, ma'am, you're old enough to do that on your own. But yeah, there's lots of things you can learn. So I guess what would I ask you is, like, if you just had to give tips, let's just share tips on being a working parent, things that work for you. I know one of the ones you shared was your meal planning, which, yes, I mean, that has helped me a lot, but like what that may be one, or what are just tips you would share that have helped you be, successful as a working parent?
Well, now that my kids are a little bit older, especially my rising high schooler, I've been using the calendar. I've been sharing all the calendar stuff with him, all his sports stuff, and we have orthodontist appointments. When we go anywhere, I share it with him and whoever else is involved in it. And so he can know what's going on. And my goal for that is to teach him to be responsible, for his time and for my time. So tips is, as I said, organization, just really trying to be organized. I have everything in my calendar. I try to write things down. I have a calendar at home I write on, and I don't really have a calendar in my purse anymore. I know some of my friends have some of those really big calendars that are awesome, but my phone usually works pretty well, keeping everything organized. The food, I'm really the main cook in the house. My husband helps on the weekend, I enjoy cooking, but having to be the person who thinks of what to cook every single day for 365 days is a lot. So having that organized, I try to write a shopping list every Sunday and what we're going to eat every day. And it doesn't always work out, but for the most part, it does.
Yeah. I've been surprised at how much that helps.
It does. It keeps me out of the grocery store and keeps the kids out of the grocery store. Groceries are so expensive now.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. What else? Other things, as I said, were my friends and my family. You really need people who can pick up your child at a moment's notice. And so I tried to cultivate people who are in the same position I am, working moms who I don't feel guilty when I'm like, oh, hey, can you grab Keller? I have a late meeting. And so they can ask me too. And so we really work with each other. And that has been a big help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could see it because, and I think part of it is sometimes you have to go first. Like I remember when Lauren was little, she had some friends of ours that we first became friends because she invited Lauren over for a play date. And she called and was like, hey, I'm going out. I don't know if they're going out of town or something. And she was like, can she stay with you guys for a day or two? And I was like, of course. But that just started, like, her asking made it easier for me to ask. So these people that are in similar situations that you can be reciprocal with. Now I have several people like that. And you're right, especially when you're still in the picking up from school and dropping off, and people who are at the same sports team. So if they need to get to so-and-so and I can't get there, they can pick them up and get them there. Like all that is critical. But it took me a while to get comfortable with that because I was kind of raised more independent. Like our family took care of each other, but we didn't really have people outside of our family that helped. I don't know if it's because we were military or what, but it just wasn't as common for me to rely on friends for those kind of things. But as a parent, it's critical.
Well, I don't have any family in town there. I mean, all my family lives away. And so I really, really had to rely on friends. And that's one of the reasons I stayed home at first, because I was like, I don't have anyone else to help me with these children. I'll have to do it myself. But then I realized as I got more into it that I don't have to do it by myself. I can find some good babysitters, and I have friends who at a moment's notice can, go grab somebody for me. And it's nice to feel helpful as well. So when they call me, I'm happy to help.
Yeah. And it's actually more fun. I mean, I think it starts to feel like you're really in a community of other, it kind of builds something even beyond the help. It's like, oh, I'm in a real community. I feel supported. Things feel a little easier. So there is this kind of willingness to give help and to ask for help when you need it. It kind of reminds me of that. I don't know if you've seen these commercials. I can't remember if it's Better Up or whatever, but there are these new commercials. Like the guy has like a this heavy weight on him, and it's like he's trying to lift it and he's about to drop it on himself, and someone comes by, he's like, can I help you? He's like, no, I got it. It's like, you don't got it, so sometimes we have to just admit, okay, I don't have it. Like I remember getting to that one point in my career when I was working on my last organization, and I just felt totally overwhelmed, totally burnt out. Like I just felt like I do not have it. I don't got it. And finally I was talking to someone and she was like, oh, I leverage a college student that helps, a high school student that helps me pick up my child. And she just shared all her tips and tricks. And I was like, oh my God, why am I trying to do all this myself when there are people I can kind of engage to help me. So I think that being willing to realize you don't have it and ask other people for help is so, like, that was a turning point for me.
And for me, the most helpful thing was to have a very open and honest relationship with my boss and my coworkers. Right? We know each other's families. We know what we're going through with each other, and we really just cut each other some slack. Really, I think that's the biggest thing in the working world is cut each other some slack. Everyone has their different issues going on, and if you don't need to be at the office and you can do some things from home, let them stay from home or ask your boss. You, Arlene, taught me so much about just asking. You're like, well, why not? Why can't you ask for that? Or if you don't want to cook dinner, then don't. Why do you have to cook dinner every night? I'm like, I don't know. No one's ever told me I didn't have to do these things every single night. And that's just been huge. So like you said, when you start talking to your friend and she's like, oh, I use a college student. Sometimes things that helped me were so easy to think about and it never crossed my mind. I was too focused on one thing.
Yes. Or doing it the way you kind of thought it should be done. I remember one conversation with, it was like a couples dinner thing. And I was sitting with two other friends of mine who are also working moms as well. And they said something about paper plates. And I was like, wait, come again? They were like, oh yeah, I don't use dishes anymore. They're like, in my cabinet are like a stack of paper plates, like plastic cups, like they've actually put this stuff in their drawers or wherever else. They were like, oh no, I don't have time for washing dishes. And I was like, I can use paper plates. Like this was years ago, but I was like, oh my God, like that alone. It's just something I hadn't thought about because I grew up we use regular dishes. I washed them every night. Like it just was, I hadn't even thought about it, to your point. And but now I mentioned it to Lauren last week. I was like, I think we've passed the paper plate stage. Like you're an adult, I'm an adult, daddy's an adult. I think we can move on from this paper product stage and actually eat on some real, real dishes. And she looked at me like I was crazy. Like, why would we do that? Like, why would we start washing these dishes? But like, there are a lot of things you can do differently if you, to your point, if you just ask other people how they're doing it. They can challenge you on kind of what you think is important, and what you think you should do. Yeah, that's super helpful.
I remember one day I was complaining to you because I was cooking for my kids at like 5:30 because they were starving. And then I was putting them to bed. And then I was cooking for my husband because he wanted to eat around 8. And I was just exhausted. And you were like, why are you cooking 2 meals? And I was like, well, because we all have to eat. And you were like, well, eat with the kids at 5:30 and then put his on a plate and he can heat it up. And I mean, it was like light bulb moment to me in that point of my life. And I was like, oh my God, why can't he just heat up his own meal? It doesn't have to be a hot meal off the stove at 8.
Right, at 8 o'clock.
And that, my whole life changed from there. I mean,
you're right. Simple things.
Because I just thought I had to put a meal on the table because my mom did every single night. And I was like, oh, wait, it is a meal that I cook, just not, and he can eat it whenever he wants to eat it.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was so silly. It was like so silly and easy to think about, but different things have changed my life, just different perspectives.
Yeah. Oh no, I totally agree. I've had 1,000 of those, and I'm so thankful for people being willing to, and part of that is us being willing to share what we're dealing with, like what the biggest struggles are, because if you don't share it, other people can't give you a perspective, and then it's doing whatever you're comfortable with. Like I was comfortable getting rid of dishes. Like, you were comfortable cooking one meal. Like you have to do what's comfortable for you. Whereas I have another friend who like hates paper plates. Like she would never do that. Like that's her thing. She would draw the line there. She'd be like, okay, I'd never do that. But you have to do what's comfortable for you. Like I always like cooking. I prefer home cooked meals just because I feel like in my mind they're healthier, but also I just like them better. I like it better than picking up something. So I did a lot of super simple meals when Lauren was little, like quesadillas and carrot sticks with ranch were like, I can't tell you how many quesadillas we ate around here, because it was like, you know what, there's like some cheese, there's a protein, there's a carb, there's a veggie, we're done. You know what I mean? So like you have to figure out what's really important to you and be willing to let go of some of those things that, aren't as critical, because it's really hard to do. You can't do it all.
I do find that social media helps too. I mean,
yes.
I do look at Facebook and TikTok, and they give me so many ideas, but there's also so many communities out there for things that you like. And I didn't realize how much it was out there, but we do a lot of hiking in the North Carolina mountains, and there's a Girls Who Hike in North Carolina Facebook page. Who knew? And they do meetups, and they meet different people, and they talk about different ideas and things they have. And I'm just reading this book called Midlife Bites, and it's just like a hysterical, true story of a woman who's writing about her midlife issues when she turned 45 and had a mental breakdown. And but she has a whole Facebook group out there, and I just literally joined it like 2 days ago, and they're asking all these questions of like, I'm 47 and I have to help my mom. How do you guys handle these things as they grow older? And everybody answers, and I'll say there's so much information out here and different ways to look at things and different places to go, just besides your immediate family and friends.
That is true. I've learned a lot from groups, and like there are a lot of moms groups I'm in that are kind of local to this area. And it's like one person said one day, she was like, I feel like I checked that group more than I checked my own page. And I was like, I know, because there's like, they're talking about the things you care about. They're giving ideas. That was one that I learned the other day. Someone was like, there was a service that would come pick up your laundry and bring it back folded and hung up. I was like, wait, what? I was like, wait, hold on. I looked at that mountain of laundry we had for that week, and I was like, I think I'm willing to pay for that. I mean, but those kind of things, to your point, my immediate circle, no one had ever said anything about that, but that expands your circle so much that you get to hear what lots of people are doing and get even more ideas. I agree. That's like the plus of social media. There's a lot of downsides, but that's a plus.
I mean, you have to filter through all the nonsense that's out there, but there's so many things I've learned. And I don't know, when I need new books, there's like 8,000 book clubs out there. You can go through and find the ones that you have the same passions with. And and just learn from them. So even for human resources, there's so much out there. There's podcasts out there about HR, there's videos, there's training. And I've used that a lot in my career, just to grow my career without having to pay any money.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. That's been I hadn't thought about it before we started talking, but that's been a huge benefit. And even during the pandemic, I feel like it was a big benefit of people just sharing what they were learning or what they were dealing with, or to your point, like funny things that let you know we're all in this together, or, childcare things that are working. And even with this recent thing around the formula, shortage of formula, like the groups would be like, hey, I was at Target on so-and-so, and they have lots of formula, like just even little tips and tricks like that. I think that's been a really positive element of social media for me too. Probably the most positive element I've had, other than staying connected to friends and family. So
yeah, I agree. Yeah, I just learned a lot there.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. So I guess let me ask you this. So I want to do the lightning round, where I'll just ask you some other general questions. But before we do that, any final thoughts or advice as you just think about working parents in general? What might be a final thought or idea or advice you might share with people?
Well, I just want to say I'm happy I stayed in the workforce, because I didn't really have to if I didn't want to. And I remember saying, gosh, Mom, you helped me pay for college and I did all this stuff, and now I'm just sitting at home. And my mom was like, Alicia, you never, ever know what is going to happen. And that is something that every person needs, is an education, a solid education. So never be upset that you're not using it the way you thought you would. And then I got back into the workforce, and then I was so happy that I had my degree and what I needed to get where I am today. So I guess my advice is just to keep going and keep learning and don't stop. Even if you're a mom of little kids who's underwater, it'll change. Life changes.
Yeah.
And your busyness changes into different things. And going back to my mom, she treated cancer her whole life. And she always said, celebrate all the little successes, because every single day she met somebody who just wanted one more anniversary, one more birthday, and one more big sale, or whatever they were doing. And so I try to take life with her advice, is just celebrate the little things. And just me getting up and coming to the office each morning with professional clothing on, that's a celebration.
Yes. Yes,
and if I bomb some days and I have a bad mom moment, I text Arlene and said, oh gosh, I really didn't do that one well. And just use your friends to pick you up but keep going. But work has been, to me, very successful and rewarding, and has kept me sane at times where I didn't think I would be sane.
Yeah, I love that. That makes a lot of sense. It has a lot of benefits to it. I think, to your point, the working and kind of working and parenting together, there's a lot of benefits to it, though it's really easy. I think, especially when your children are little, to only feel the downsides of it, because they require so much. Like, to your point, as they age, things just change, and it's not as, I think, physically taxing. When you're a parent of little people, it's physically taxing, but there's a long-term benefit to it, I think, as well, kind of the working and parenting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, there's some long-term benefits to it. I love that. Okay. Well, let's do, this is the lightning round. Okay. So this is just to help people get to know you better. Simple questions, just whatever comes to mind, whatever's top of mind for you. So the first one is, what is the most unique job you've had?
Well, I've been in HR for my whole career. So before that, I guess I worked at Baskin-Robbins.
Oh, did you? The 31, is it 31 flavors?
Yes. Yeah. And that was a really interesting experience. Just, learning how to count money and give change, and working in the service industry. And people ask you all kind of questions. I remember one day someone said, well, is the ice cream kosher? And I, being a young kid, I had no idea what they were talking about. And they educated me on what it meant to be kosher. And they had me pull up the whole entire ice cream bin. They showed me the sign. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is something I'll use my whole life.
Yeah.
And I guess, working at the ice cream store, I did stop eating ice cream for many, many years.
You just were done with it.
I was done with ice cream. Yeah.
I wish I could be done with ice cream. I love that. Okay. What is one thing you do consistently to enjoy your life? Like, what's something?
I would have to say reading. I really enjoy reading. It really does relax me and put me in a good frame of mind, and helps me go to sleep at night. And just, I think, to me, that's just, I wish it was exercise.
You're exercising your mind, Alicia.
That got me off the couch.
You're exercising your mind.
I am exercising my mind. So that is one thing I do pretty on a daily basis that helps me.
You're an avid reader. I love that.
I know, but I wish it would, I wish it was exercising.
I like reading. Okay. What is one tip you would give working parents from the HR perspective? Like, what's one last tip you might give them?
Well, for HR, for me being in HR, I really try to tell my employers to talk with your employees. And, if literally someone just called me today and said, someone hasn't been in all week and they're out of leave time. What do I do? When can they no longer work here? And I was like, well, let's step back. Give them a call first and see what's going on and what is going on in their life and how you can help them. And do they need to take some kind of unpaid leave of absence? And so in HR, my tip is just to be open and honest and explain to your employers where you are and what's going on, because most people are nice and most people want to help you and then do the right thing. But so many people keep it to themselves and keep it hidden and don't tell you. And not that we need to know all the details, but if you don't show up for a week, it would be nice if you called and gave us some reason.
It would be nice.
I mean, so as we said earlier, ask for the things you want, and all they can do is say no, or they can work with you. So I would ask.
I think that's a good point. And, I think you're right. Like every now and then you run into a manager or an organization that is just terrible, what I mean? And they don't have any grace and those kind of things. And those are difficult situations. But more often than not, I have found people if you're a hard worker, let's start with that, especially if you're a hard worker or you're someone who they value. If you ask for what you want, I agree with you. I've found people very generous. I mean, I remember the company we were working with together, which isn't really the company anymore, but where we worked before, when I went on maternity leave, and when it was time to come back, I was like, I don't feel like I'm ready to come back. And they actually were like, well, like, do you want to keep working? And I was like, yeah. They said, well, you could work part-time from home. And at the time, like, I don't even think we had computers at home. So that wasn't a thing. Yeah. I don't even know. After a while, I called him back and was like, I'm not really working. So we're not going to, we could just kind of end this relationship. But I mean, they were willing to try it. So I think your point around people want to work with you. If if they value you as an employee, which, I'm sure they do, then they really do want to work with you if you're willing to share it. So I love that advice.
Yeah, but you're right. You have to be a hard worker and valuable. So you have to do your part.
Yes. And then I found people really gracious and nice, honestly.
They do. They want to help and do the right thing.
Yeah. And then last question, and you already shared one, so that might be it. But what is a word of wisdom or piece of advice you live by?
Oh, yeah, I do. My mom's advice of always celebrate the small things because you never know. That is really what we live by. And we used to make fun of her because every time we would go to visit her, there was a party. My husband's like, your mom has a party for everything. And I was like, I know. And she loves a parade and she loves fireworks and, anything going on. She's the one like, let's go downtown and watch the fireworks. Yeah. And we were like, oh, no. But once we got there, we had so much fun. Or she's always the one who wants to take the family picture. And so, my advice is just to celebrate the little things and as much as you can, because you never know what will happen.
Yeah. Yeah. And her experience, even of working with people who are, dealing with possibly end of life kind of diseases, like I could see how that just is such a good reminder around how much the little things matter. Because I'm sure once you get to that, you get to the point where you're considering your life, like
I wish I had
little things matter a lot.
Yeah. One more birthday, one more anything. One more day with the grandkids. And, mom has some physical issues that make walking and things difficult, and she never lets it get her down. She's always up for anything. She's up for any kind of adventure we want to do. And she just pushes herself. And so that has been something that I try to live by. Like, just get up and do whatever you can.
Yeah. I love that. And especially for working parents, because as parents, you can feel like a lot of things are failing or not going well. So this idea of celebrating the little things about, whether it's your work or your parenting life, I think is really good advice for all of us. Yeah. So thank you so much for sharing, Alicia, for joining me. I really appreciate it. I appreciate you sharing your wisdom and insights with everyone. And thank you all so much for joining. You can find me on Instagram at arlene.pace.green. And you're on LinkedIn, Alicia, as well?
I am, yeah.
Okay. So we'll put her link in the show notes as well, so you can connect with her as well. And everyone, be well. Thanks for joining.